So I don't know how formal it's up, but we're in call order,
Call order steps four.
Fell out of the first one.
that's it.
Broke 6 ribs, losing lungs, and he's in the hospital in McAllen.
I did print that off.
He's moving to you guys to a rehab center.
Well, Dan's planning on telling me what to do with him, and he has got my number.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Take it easy.
Thank you.
All right, we added the two conditions by which.
We're going to call this meeting to order. This is a workshop, very informal. And we have a quorum here present. Secretary Perkins, Vice President Herman, myself, Dan Sullivan, Treasurer Deborah Isaac, Director John Holt, also our Executive Officer Richard Lawrence, and our Executive Secretary Christy Rodriguez. So we do have a quorum. We need to formally approve the agenda that has been forth, which is basically old business, which is going to be working on the renters, revised rules and regulations, policy on renters, and also on the RV park, and if possible, if time allows, move into the rules and regulations. What I'd like to see us accomplish today is to finalize the runners rules and regulation and the RV park rules and regulations, and have them prepared to go before the next board meeting for approval. I know we want to incorporate them all into the rules and regulations, but that could take some time. So in the meanwhile, I think it's important that we give some established situation for the renters in the RV park. Once the rules and regulations are done, then those two documents can be incorporated into the rules and regulations. So with that, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Approve, motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Do we have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the agenda signify by raising their hand. It's approved by unanimous consent. If we can start with the renters, do we have anything retyped and redone from what we'd already worked out on it?
I don't think so.
Nothing
I don't think anything has been
Just
reworked.
worked with the, made notes on the stuff we had.
I did some work on this, trying to incorporate what we did at the previous workshop. And I came up with what I thought could be incorporated in about 2 pages. The first one is the tenant registration. And if anybody else has input they'd like to put forward on that first, please speak up, feel free to offer it.
This is the tenant, okay.
Tenant registration, I would suggest to start with that we change that to landlord and tenant registration. And then underneath it, that first section would be for the landlord, the membership account, residential account, the owner's name, all that. And then as far as the date of lease, where it says it must be renewed, it's renewed every 6 months along with a copy of the lease. I would suggest, based on the input we've had from all of you in the previous ones, that it should be reviewed at cancellation or renewal of lease. And must be renewed every 6 months. Then under the information about the tenant, the driver's license numbers, I think something should be added there to the effect it's not required except for a vehicle pass, because the law was changed, and that is actually driver's license number is one of the things we cannot ask for based on them just being a tenant. There's not much we can ask for information. The rest of the information we can get from them. Then down in the next first full paragraph, I guess the second one, which says last, by signing this document, I confirm that I have read and agreed to all the terms of the contracts and will comply with all, I think should be added, and shall comply with all SCSA rules and regulations.
We had already had a statement added to that. The statement was, I understand that I am responsible for abiding by FCSA rules and regulations, and failure to follow them could result in a consequence to the property owner. That was the line that we had already added to that.
Okay, let's add that in.
Well, that's what we did last time.
That's right.
All right. Well, it says my gate sticker must be reserved,
We
renewed
removed
every
that.
6 months.
We removed that.
I would suggest you change that to reviewed. I mean, do we have to issue a new sticker every 6?
We removed that sentence last time.
Yeah, I didn't have that here. That's removed.
That's what we had done last time. Yep.
Is everybody in agreement on that? Okay, so that we no longer will have in there, my gate sticker must be renewed every 6 months. Is that right?
The gate, it should say, I think, that the gate, somehow that the gate sticker is limited use or legal, whatever you want to say, to the length of the rent, of the
lease.
Of the lease.
Yeah, is effective.
If you've only got a 6-month lease, it definitely needs to be renewed at 6 months. If they've got a year lease or 2-year lease, then that might be a little different.
Well, that's what I say, it should
be.
coincide with the length of the lease.
Right, and that's what we were putting in this other.
But I thought we were gonna have something presented to us with these changes in it at this next meeting.
Is the renter sticker different than
Yeah,
the,
those are the type of.
It's supposed to be, and that's what we were talking about, that there was, we need a better system to identify what's a renter versus a member.
yeah,
And
I think
Mr.
the
Lawrence
stickers
was
are different,
gonna,
aren't they?
well, they're supposed to be,
I don't
but
know.
there's not a.
Richard, are they different? The stickers?
There are two, do you have a picture of the?
I have it.
They are
Two different colors.
Well, they're different shape, size.
They used to be a different color.
Right, and part of the problem was that,
Something you can easily identify if you're standing there working the gate.
Yes.
but part of the problem though was that some people who were tenants were still getting member stickers.
Yes, I mean, that,
That
well,
was,
but
I mean,
that's,
but I think part of it is that there was nothing on this form, but I don't know, so.
Well, I think a sticker
So we had a long discussion about those stickers.
should be something like the motor vehicle sticker, which has a month and a year on it.
Well, that
Just
could be
that way.
written in big black ink, because it's gonna be different for everybody all the time, you know, one person has their lease.
Oh, yeah, but the, one of those things that you get the basic sticker, and then you could
Right, and-
or either write in or
Those number
have the
stickers.
numbers
I know what you're saying.
and put on the stick itself. You'd have to have, numbers from 1 through 10, obviously, and then you put them in for the month, you put in, let's say it's the third, you're here for.
Okay, that's a detailed procedural
Right,
thing
yeah.
that the administration can deal with. I think what we could put in here is that the gate stickers, expiration of the gate stickers must coincide with the expiration of the lease.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Mr. Taylor has his hand up.
Yes,
Can I make a suggestion?
sure.
The state of Texas has Texas tags and easy tags. They're cheap. I think it's $20. I've got one on my car. You stick it up behind the mirror. When I drive into my daughter's subdivision in Houston, they have a gate that's down all the time. They have an RFID reader. The gate pops up if my easy tag is valid and I'm on the computer system as legal to come in. If you do that, you solve all the problems. And it's not that expensive.
Something
Pretty
to be
cheap.
looked into. Again, that's a procedural thing. I think what we want to do here is establish a policy situation that says whatever procedure is used, that the gate sticker shall not exceed the length of the lease.
Well, that would the software takes care of that.
Yeah, that's
So a
good.
6-month renter, boom, it's good for 6 months, as long as their lease is valid. If they're ever taken off in the office, the gate won't raise for them. It's simple.
That's
Never
very distinguishable,
Never
that's for
mind.
sure.
Yeah.
Sorry I interrupted.
No, that's fine, that's
It's
fine.
too simple.
I know two
I think we're talking about the same thing, but coming through a different road.
Exactly, I understand that.
And this sticker here,
It's supposed to be what a renter gets.
yeah, but
Yeah.
a date could be, 2/20 could be written on this, which would mean for February of the year 20. Could be, hopefully could be added and it would be not
Or do little
illegal.
number stickers.
Or even stick-ons or something like that.
But I know two people renting homes right now
Well,
that didn't get that.
That's fine,
They've
but
got one that looks like mine,
that's now, we're going forward,
so.
we
But that
gotta
sticker
correct it.
there would definitely be even recognizable to any member if they see a renter doing something wrong to report vehicle and recognize them as a renter also. I mean, it's so much different than our regular stickers.
Right, I
That's
agree.
right.
So to recap, you're wanting to add landlord to the top. Landlord to the top to make it landlord/tenant. You're wanting to remove the must be renewed every 6 months with a copy of the lease.
I'd say must be reviewed at cancellation or renewal of lease.
Okay, and then,
And then who did we determine was responsible for removing the stickers off of the renter's vehicles?
well, that's a security thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it'd have to be a
Well, at
security.
one time, it was supposed to be the renter, then it was supposed to be the landlord, and
It's difficult to know when the lease is
I know.
abandoned or canceled or.
Well, if you have a date on this sticker,
Then you know.
you know it's only good up
And
until
actually, the
that point.
spreadsheet that says.
Even if the car is, somebody else is using it.
Stan's got his hand up.
I don't think.
The sticker shows up real well, Bill. When you're meeting the car, you see it, but if you ride on it, you're gonna have to make the sticker bigger, or they can't see that going through the gate.
Let's put the stickers.
I think you need to just keep it simple. I think it's working great the way it is. Maybe you need a little more communication between the front office and the security gate about which goes to where. But it keeps it simple, it's not gonna cost a lot of money.
And then we added, or we kept, that I understand that I am responsible for abiding by Fort Clark SA rules and regulations, and failure to follow them could result in consequences to the property owner. And then it goes into, in the event to terminate my Fort Clark Springs rental property, I agree that I must remove the gate passes from all vehicles, so that kind of just put it on the tenant,
On the tenant.
yeah.
Well, it puts it on, it's the same with us. If you buy a new car, you're responsible for taking the sticker off your old car.
I was saying, someone just asked the question, who's responsible
Yeah,
for it?
well.
This line addresses that. And then, what was the new statement, instead of my gate sticker must be renewed every 6 months? What was that
It
statement?
goes along with the lease.
My gate sticker coincides with my lease.
Yeah, shall not exceed the length of the lease.
Unless Fort Clark changes them out, then they would be obligated to change them, same as the membership would be.
So like here, my sticker is valid for length of lease.
So, well, what's the terminology we're gonna use? And I'm trying to make final notes so that
Yeah,
we
so you
can
can
put
give this
this,
to Christie and.
so we can move forward with
Type
it.
it
So,
up.
what statement do you want?
Before you finish that, on the driver's license number, that's kind of important that,
So you just wanna remove that?
well, yeah, either remove
I would
it or
just,
say required only for vehicle pass.
well, they're gonna have to fill out a different form for the
Yeah, so I
pass.
would just remove
So
it,
let's just remove it.
because we're not allowed legally to ask for
So where it says tenant's name, we're removing driver's license and issuing state on both that and other occupant, because they're gonna have to fill out another form to get a pass.
that. Correct.
Okay. And then what's the statement we're gonna say about the gate sticker? My gate sticker coincides,
With
or is valid
Is
with,
valid for length of lease.
is valid for length.
It says here, my
Lease.
sticker, but if you wanna change it to vehicle sticker,
Yes.
Alright, how about I understand my gate sticker is valid for that, since they're understanding everything else up here. You want that or no?
That sounds good.
yeah, whatever.
I
It's-
understand.
That's just the idea that it's.
They both collapse at the same time.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
Alright. Then on the back of that page, what were we doing with that? What we had done in the past was we said that we were removing the bottom part of that because it should be, the notes that I have says they should be getting a current rules and regulations
Yes.
thing. So we removed that, the whole thing, on the bottom.
And
But then the tenant registration procedure, we had not done anything with it except remove the tenant card portion because there's no tenant cards.
tenant cards will be issued, we were gonna, I think.
But we weren't issuing tenant cards, were we?
No, we
So
haven't.
that's why we removed that
So
bullet.
those last two bullet points there,
So we're removing them all together, correct?
just those last two, right? Tenant cards and then at the termination of the lease, tenant cards.
Yep, that's fine. And then, for some reason, I thought we were taking this and we were incorporating it into this, so that it wasn't on this anymore. And it was gonna be part of this. Which is the other document.
So when a renter leaves, does anybody contact you at all?
Suppose they leave,
Supposed to. The house, the owner,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, there has to be communication between the landlord and security. When the renter is no longer renting, security should be
notified. I agree 100%.
And then the attempt can be made to remove the sticker,
Mhm.
especially when that person tries to come back in.
and we're gonna have up there that the lease must be reviewed at cancellation or renewal.
But that's something to add to this document. Because this is the document that talks about the procedure to be a tenant.
Well, why would we want to review it if it's canceled? Why, I mean,
Because the reviewing it will be letting us know that it's canceled. So we're aware that that's no longer in effect.
But technically, that's not our responsibility. That's the landlord's responsibility to review a lease.
Yeah.
We just care about whether or not we need to give them access to this.
and then what happens when somebody cancels that lease and we don't know about it?
That's,
What issue does that bring into?
well,
in
that
this
issue,
apply?
then the landlord hasn't performed what they've been required
Well, I know
to do.
you've got 4 or 5 that perform 100%, and then you probably have 25 that don't at all. I'm just saying.
Okay, well,
But if we change the rules to make it that they have to comply, then that's where we're going.
if they don't, then I suppose they can be, that's part of the rules and regulations, and they can have an enforcement assessment levied against.
Right, on the property owner, cause
Yeah,
that's,
on the
that's who
property
we are responsible to.
Exactly.
Right.
Don't you have to approve leases?
No, that's
No,
not,
no.
No.
not unless it's our property that we own that we're gonna have a tenant in
They don't
ourselves.
bring a lease to you to get the tenant a card or anything?
Well, that's what they're supposed to
No.
do.
But there's no
But how does
reason
the
for
tenant
that.
get a card?
The
They
tenant
can't- they
hasn't
don't-
been given a card.
They
That's-
don't get a card. At this point in time, normally, if you got a tenant in here, and that the rules were that if they wanted to use the facilities, the landlord had to come and get a card, and they're only good for 7 days. That's how it has worked in the past. Otherwise, if they're down here and they don't have that card, they're supposed to not be able to use your facilities in the past.
But nobody's been issuing
No.
these tenant cards.
Exactly.
so-
But you're saying now they're gonna get a pass on the card.
Well, either way, they've been getting a
To
sticker on
get
their
that
card.
sticker on the card, they've got to present a lease, don't they?
No,
Well, no,
They're
that's,
supposed to.
but that's the landlord.
That's the
The
landlord.
landlord has to.
Yeah.
yeah,
The
yeah.
landlord.
Don't let him rent the property, anybody new, till he takes care of the old guy that left.
So that's what I'm saying, like, the landlord is responsible for their property, not us.
That's
And,
exactly what we do.
right, but as
Yeah.
Ms. Isaac said, not every landlord does
Oh.
their due diligence, just a few of the landlords do. And so this policy is going to be
I'm
something that
sorry.
can be enforceable to all landlords, because the property owner is who we are responsible to. We're not responsible to the tenants. The tenants are responsible to their landlords. So that's why we're going through this line by line. So in this other document, are we going to add this registration procedure to this so that it's all one document?
Yes, it
Okay,
should all be one, is my opinion.
because that's what we talked about last time, we
Yes, it
didn't
was.
actually do it. So do you want me to review the notes that I wrote on this document from what we talked about last time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Can we put anything in there someplace that says to the effect that a member in good standing can rent his property, but if you're not in good standing, you can't rent your property, something on that order?
Is that against the law for us to do?
I don't know, that's why I'm
It's
asking
in our
the question.
declarations as it is, our
That's
rules.
already stated.
It's in the rules and regulations.
Yeah,
But we don't stand true to it.
Okay, well, that's fine, if it's in the rules and regulations, that's fine, because the way I'm looking at this, the rules and regulations are gonna this is
Well, this
part,
would be incorporated.
yeah, this would
into-
be incorporated into the rules and regulations.
But can it be enforced is another question.
But
Yes.
It's really hard for somebody to not be paying their dues and they've got a renter that they're receiving $800-900 a month, but yet they're not paying for anything, and they still get to use the roads, they still get to use the trash pickup.
Well,
So-
I know what you're saying, and that's what I'm getting at. If it says in the rules and regulations that you have to be a member in good standing to rent your property, it's there,
Okay,
okay? The same thing to me is does it say in there, if you are not a member in good standing, do you lose your privileges?
well, they should. I mean, that
Well,
should be.
I agree, I'm just saying.
But we're gonna have to stand true to that fact, and when somebody registers or tries to register that is renting a property, we're gonna have to say, if you wanna rent your property, you're gonna have to pay up.
Yeah.
Or your renter's not gonna be able to come in the front gate.
I agree.
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
Mr.
Well,
Lawrence,
that's-
is there, like, when you drive in through the front gate, or even to the swimming pool or anywhere, is there a list of people that are not in good standing, that, so
Yes.
it seems like that would be easy to enforce, right?
Well, yes and no. If the landlord has leased their residence or what have you to a renter, that renter now has the right to access and egress to and from the house. We can't prevent that from happening.
I think we,
But I was just gonna say that if the landlord is not in good standing and the landlord leases to someone when the rules state that he cannot, then that comes to the board as a violation of the rules and regulations, and that person's subject to an individual enforcement assessment.
Which is in the declaration.
I think
Yes.
it's, you know, we don't have to make this complicated. On the
Well,
sheet
no, but
that we
this-
have here, right here, all we need to do is we can put a sentence right at the beginning that says, a property owner must be in good standing in order to rent their property.
But it
Period.
needs to make the reference to where that's at. So per the bylaws
Bylaws,
or
section,
declarations or
whatever.
whatever, the sections,
Mr.
this is
Principal's gonna-
per this.
Yeah, but
A member in
it
good
should be
standing.
on the, on
And I
the,
agree,
One,
I agree, and I'll add that.
John,
You ought to add one more word there, to continue to rent the property. Because if you've rented, if a landlord has rented a place, and then he falls behind on his dues, you haven't got anything there in the way it's worded right now to address that. But if you say to continue, for the landlord to continue to rent property, he must stay current.
yeah.
Puts a little bit more meat in it.
If you move down in that first paragraph,
Well, I was gonna read all of our notes that I had written down from the last two discussions we had about that.
I don't know for sure, most of them I think are written down, like this one, it simply says, violate any rules or regulations adopted by the board of directors such as speeding or littering, and I want to say such as, but not limited to speeding or littering, blah, blah, blah. Just adding the phrase, but not limited, such as, but not limited to.
Well, from the top, what we had done was we added, long-term renter. So it says a non-member tenant is a long-term renter, guest of the landlord, which means the landlord is responsible for the actions of the guest while on the port. And then it says, instead of special assessment, it says an individual assessment can be levied against the property owner, and then we removed acting agent.
so who's really responsible for a renter's guest on here?
The property owner is responsible for whoever is staying at their property, period. And that's who we
Because we haven't
go-
addressed that at all either.
Well, yeah, that's what this first thing says, that, yeah, a tenant.
No, she's saying the
No,
renter.
I'm saying a
renter
renter
wants to
rents a
have
property
fixed-
from a property owner, and he can invite people in here.
Oh, that's
Then
in
who's-
here. That's in here though. It says, a tenant may authorize a guest onto the fort, but only from the gate to their rented property, and may not allow the guest to any of the following.
Okay.
That's what it says that in here.
Right.
But, let's see, and then we removed tenant cards because we don't do those anymore. So we did not discuss though that procedure, which is what was on this page for registration, and we were gonna put that in there instead. So we need to fine tune this procedure for them. And then what we also talked about is that per the rules and regulations, long-term renters are over 30 days.
Mhm.
And so we were gonna add that into that first paragraph. And then for the landlords that were not here, present, we were gonna have a letter, we were gonna request a letter of designated representative for those landlords. And that'd be with the front office, that's what. Because I think you brought that up, Ms. Isaacs, that some of these people that own the properties don't live here and they pay somebody here to do it, so I guess like Mr. Metcalf or somebody.
Well,
And-
some of them do, but some of them don't live here, and they've got renters, and their properties look like pure crap, and they don't even know what they're looking like.
Right, but
So
that's why
that's
I
another
was talking
issue
about
also.
that letter of designated representative, because I can't go to the front office and say, hey, I'm talking about this person's property and on behalf of the owner without some kind of letter, and so they have to have that on file, that's what we talked about last time.
Don't they have
Have
to
you got all
be,
that written down in there, Maria?
Yeah, that's all here.
don't they have to be a real estate agent to manage rental
Not,
property?
Not it, well, and that's what Ms. Isaacs was saying, if you have a letter designating a representative for your property, then,
Right.
then that makes it a little different.
But if that person has 4 or 5 properties with people making them representative, that just
I
violates.
believe in most states, in order to manage rental properties, you need a real estate license. There's regulations as far as how deposits are handled. They must be in an escrow account and.
But that's different though,
Well,
like,
just a
let's
real estate
say,
agent can't do it anymore, you actually have to be a broker or represented by a broker.
but the
In
situation
Texas.
that you find a lot of times too is, like, let's say I move, and I'm renting my house, and I'm dealing with my tenant directly, but I need someone on the ground, like right there, that can deal with day-to-day stuff if an emergency happens, then I can leave a letter of designated representative saying, if something happens, this person is my emergency contact and can deal with my property.
Yeah, well, if you can get by with that, fine, but
But-
we're not.
But I'm saying, like,
enforcing
that's what-
state law either.
Well, no, but that's why we had talked about the letter of designated representative, because there is that instance where
But if they get paid for it and they're doing more than 1 or 2 properties,
we
they
don't,
just became an
but
agent.
we don't,
Yes.
that, our job is not to know if somebody's getting paid to be a
Right,
representative.
I'm just, okay.
But I hear you
I just don't
saying,
want us to get in trouble on something like that.
well, no, I hear what
Looks
you're
like we're
saying,
getting involved with it.
but if somebody, like, again, I'll use myself as an example, because as a military family, we could get orders to move immediately. And if we do, and I have a friend that's gonna rent the house for me, and I'm the one managing that rental, but I still need someone here in case a water busts up or something,
That's a question for the state of Texas.
Then,
not for us. So all we want them to do is let us know who to contact here, and whether that person's is licensed, needs to be licensed, isn't licensed, none of.
that, yeah, that's
concern.
not our
We're
concern.
not
So
concerned
that,
with
Let's keep it simple.
that. Yes.
but if that property owner doesn't have something saying that Mr. Lawrence can talk to another person about their property, then they can't talk to somebody.
That's what I'm getting.
And that's what the whole point of that was.
If they're in violation of the rules or the unit, or they just keep trashing the place up, the owner's not here, who do we talk to get it corrected? I guess
Well,
is
you
one
have
of
to
my
contact the
concerns.
owner, because the owner is who's responsible for the property. But if the owner says, well, I've got this person on site, and here's my letter, you know, that person can go check it and make sure it's okay. But again, like, it's not our responsibility to know if they're getting paid or not, because that's
No,
their situation. So,
All right, anything,
and then, well, we added, let's see, oh, so we tabled the decision on whether or not we wanted to enforce long-term rentals have an FRM. And here is, it was on the 14th of January. Debbie recommended to have long-term rentals get an FRM, and you referred to the declarations, Debbie. Bill said, look at the other factors, members in good standing and bad standing. I said short-term rentals should get short-term renters should get a pass for 30 days, long-term renters need an FRM, and Dan didn't make any comment.
well, really, you really don't even have to have an RFRM, you could just have a renter's pass, and that way it would be a different, what do you got there?
well,
Assignment of membership privileges to renter.
But according to our bylaws and declarations, the privileges of a property belong to the person who is the owner of the property.
Right,
You would
but
have
what-
to change your declarations or what your bylaws, I guess is
But
what.
what this is saying is that the landowner is giving up his privileges to the renter.
That's when they used to
And-
actually transfer it to the renter.
And there is a charge to
There
do
was,
that.
it used to be $25, which was the membership transfer at the point, then it went up to $150.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but that's what this
That was.
this was what they did.
Did.
The landowner assigned his
Mhm.
privileges, so basically, if Maria rented her property
Mhm.
and assigned her privileges to somebody else, the renter, she can still come up here because she's a member, but she can't use anything.
Exactly, and that was another
It's just
problem
like
they
a
used to have.
non-person, you know what I'm saying? But that's what this is what they did is they
But
gave.
now would that mean $150 to transfer it into the renter's name, and then $150
Well, I don't
to
think-
transfer it back
well,
into
the-
the owner's name?
What this is saying here is that in this particular, and this is dated 1994, okay, so
Yes.
it's old. But the
Mhm.
point is, it says, I am responsible, meaning the landowner, for paying a $25 administrative charge and an additional $10 per month assessment for the privilege of assigning this membership.
That's something they used to do. On this one here,
I
it
know,
actually says that the tenant has, which allow them access to all the fort amenities.
Right, and that's what we discussed, that's when we started talking about FRMs
But it
versus,
seems to me it only makes sense. You're collecting a full membership fee every single month on that property of $83 a month.
Then you're gonna have
For
to
the
change your
land- for the-
declaration and your bylaws, or
for
your
the
bylaws
owner,
with the
yeah,
one that's in.
it's for the property owner,
Well,
but,
what does it say there?
It says you can't transfer your membership, period. I believe.
If you wanna change it, that's fine, but you can't pick and choose what you wanna use
No,
out
I
of
just
the
wanna
declarations
know, I
or
wanna know
bylaws.
what you're referring to
Well-
there. I know you cannot voluntarily give up your membership.
You can't
No.
sell
which
it,
is what that is.
donate it, loan it, whatever. It stays with the property owner.
But if you're a long-term tenant, then you should have an FRM. If you're a short-term tenant, then it's acceptable to get a pass, and that's
Well,
completely
also,
fine.
the renter is also a guest of the owner,
Right, but
so
again, you
should
can't,
have guest privileges.
at what point, well, it does say, it does address it in the bylaws, that you can't have, I need to find it, exactly what it
Yeah,
says.
that's what I
But,
mean.
but there is a portion in there that talks specifically about your short-term and long-term guests. And it doesn't say you can have indefinite long-term guests as a member,
Doesn't say you can't.
but it doesn't say you can either. So,
And here's without lot ownership and memberships right here. And it says, are those based on the lot owner's ownership of the lot in the association with a recorded deed? A deed may have an association charter number attached to it. A lot owner membership enjoys all privileges and duties of association membership, including the right to vote. So if they get the privileges of that, do their renters get the right to vote also?
That was a question I was getting ready to ask.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
which
just
should be
reading
Very
what,
good question.
yeah,
Okay,
cause if you give the membership over,
only,
that's one of the
so
rights.
that's part of it. The other one,
That's a
well, you
rule.
can be more specific about, what the renter is allowed to do, and basically, I think what, do we have to have
they should be
two
afforded
memberships
at
on one
least,
property?
they should be afforded at least guest privileges. Yes, Dan?
I thought it was in those, the registrations that we fill out for the renters, that we turn in, it says that the landowner is responsible for those tenants, but they get those privileges. I mean,
Right, but by our
are you talking about
documents,
what we have or what y'all presented to us?
No, that's just what was, that's already in what we turn into the front gate. It says that we're responsible. My thinking, and this is just me, there's no need in penalizing these people $165 if they're gonna be here 60 days. That's, when we're already paying paying our dues, whether we got renters or not, we pay our dues every.
You're talking about a short term,
Well, I'm talking about either one of them.
because a short term is 30 days or less.
right,
Okay.
I'm talking about a long term too.
It should be all the same, it shouldn't be, when
But
we're
no,
paying
because-
our assessments every month, we shouldn't be penalized, or neither should the renters, because we're paying for it every month.
you're paying your assessments for you and whoever is on your tax return. And that's what our documents say, that what you're paying for, your membership, it doesn't matter how many memberships you have, it's paying for you and whoever is on your tax return.
Only
The-
part of it is. The other part is the residential fee for the property.
But regardless, like that is what that's going for, it's
Okay,
not
so
going
what we've been
towards-
turning into the courts really wouldn't be legal all the time.
I don't know what you're actually trying to do.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, it says that the renters have access to do things on the fort. They can go walk the trails and stuff like that without having to buy.
When did that change? When did that change?
Well, I think that's what we're
Because I
looking
had a
at right
renter at
here.
one point in time that they were asked, because they were walking on the trails by the creek, and they asked, are you a member? And they said no. And they said, well, ma'am, you're gonna have to go back toward your property that you're renting. And they couldn't even walk the trails at that point in time.
Well, I thought you'd already drove this faster and got it straightened out before.
That's why we're looking at this right now.
Well, I think it doesn't it basically say that a renter can only go back and forth to his property?
It does say that.
It said,
Okay.
the rules and regulations say that those who rent a dwelling from a member in good standing for a period of more than 30 days, that's how they define a long-term renter. They are granted access to Fort Clark Springs but are not entitled to the use of the member-only facility.
That's what the rules say.
Right, unless they get an FRM. And if you get an FRM, then you're entitled to it.
Okay, so then what my renters, instead of renting for 6 months, I need to tell them they're just gonna rent for 30 days at a time?
Yeah,
That's what you're gonna force me to do?
Well, if that's what you think you need to do, but
Well,
if
I mean,
they're,
'cause
if they're
you're
renting,
penalizing
Sell your
them.
property.
it's not a penalty, sir. You make a selection to live on a gated community, and you know upfront, if you're in a gated community, there's extra expense to do that. You could easily just go across to a non-gated community, and you can go rent from there as well. But when you're selecting to live somewhere, you're understanding that there's extra cost to do that. And every member understands that when they buy property. Every time I buy another lot, I understand that when I do that, I incur additional expense to have that.
that's not.
So,
I do the same thing.
and so I'm telling you though, it's not a penalty to tell somebody that if you're gonna decide to be a long-term renter, this is the additional expense that you're incurring to be able to utilize the amenities that are here. That's not a penalty, that's part of the rules. I can't go own a house and then expect that I get a use of all of the amenities here on the fort and not pay for it. Who's gonna pay for it? So what you're asking currently is for the members that are in good standing, paying their assessments, you're asking for them to pay for other people to have those same amenities, which is not fair to the people that invest into this community.
Each property that they are renting, they're paying for all those amenities with their $83 a month.
That's
They're
right.
already
That's what
paying
I'm
for it,
saying,
so they're not asking
Maria.
anybody
They're
to-
We're already
receiving
paid.
compensation every month in the rent for
That's
that.
right.
If they don't like that, then they can sell the property and go somewhere else.
Exactly,
Do
like
you
that's
own
their
any property
business.
that you
Yes,
rent
I
out,
do.
that you rent out?
No, sir.
When you were on that committee that
I
we made
was
these rules.
pushed off the committee, yes.
You're
Yeah.
pushed off the committee?
Yeah. Give
My
it a
whole,
long
my
story.
whole thing is, I would like to see a renter's privilege fee. And they don't have to pay like the recreation membership because they've already paid their rent to you. But that could be the 25 plus the 10, like they used to do,
Or you
a
could,
month.
or we could.
And do away with the $160 upfront fee.
Oh, the
Now you become,
initiation fee or whatever.
yes, the initiation fee plus the first month. If it becomes a renter's fee, then they get used to all the privileges as long as their lease is up to date. It wouldn't be the, what, $40 now for is that 40 now for recreation? I think it is.
Yes.
So then you could make it any fee you wanted for them to be able to use our facilities. They're on our roads, they're getting the trash pickup. Again, these are things that are paid for, but again, you are also making money to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And this here was back in the day when it was $25 to transfer your membership. I didn't know the $10 was.
Well, I didn't, yeah, I know.
I didn't know
But
that.
that was my
But-
next thought, was that, you know,
To make
if
it
you, the
legal, come up
renter,
with
have
a
to
new
buy
renter's
a
fee.
card,
Exactly.
a $10 card or a $15 card, whatever it is.
Well, it wouldn't be 1994 rates, I can tell you that.
Well,
I
no.
know,
But
that's
like
not
your
what I'm
idea
saying.
though.
But the only thing
All the
that
renter
cannot,
would have
I don't
to
know
do-
where this was, but at one point, you could never create another fee with a fee that you already had, like $38. That is, but now those fees are going up. But it would be a different amount than anything else you had.
So you're,
It used to be that way.
Basically, you could basically say, okay, a renter is here, if he wants to use the facilities of the fort while he's here as a renter, it's like buying a membership to a state park.
Yes,
You pay a fee.
a fee.
You get, I guess you get some kind of a card,
And as long as you pay
and
it,
it's,
you've got all
and
the
that's all you'd
privileges.
have to do is show that. If security says, who are you? Well, I'm a renter. Okay, let me see your
So,
renter's card giving you permission to use the
so
facility.
you're
So we're back to
suggesting
credit
that
cards.
the renter is
It's a
able
card
to
that-
buy a facility use pass
With the
with
lease.
$25 paid upfront and then $10 per month.
Oh, I don't agree to those rates, but I
Well,
agree to
the
the
money
concept.
can be worked
The
out,
money
but the
could be
point being is
worked out.
that the
But
renter would have to have a card of
Then
some
you don't
sort.
have to transfer your membership. They're getting full privileges, and then they now have something that you can also buy. The fort would have teeth to bite into them for not obeying the rules.
Can I say something?
Consider it
Well,
$35.
Mr. Taylor had his hand up first, so what do you got, sir?
The RV park, those are long-term renters, a lot of them. Are they gonna also,
Well, that's a different
That's a-
policy.
compete?
That's a fort business. They're paying the fort for the privileges.
I don't wanna see the port having to charge RV park
No.
long-term renters an FRM, which they do
So
now,
they're paying rent to.
and then have other renters that don't have to do that and get to do something.
That's a
See what
horse
I'm
of a
saying?
different color.
It is a horse of a different color,
I
but
thought
they're
we were just
buying
gonna
that
talk about
because they
renters
get
here,
cheaper
not
RV
RV
rates.
Right, well, yeah,
It
so it's a
is,
different,
but-
it's a
Okay,
different
that's
policy.
We're getting
neither here nor
way
there. Greg,
down the
what do you
road.
have to say?
What I was gonna say, or what I was gonna
No, we keep commenting,
Suggest-
it's not wrong.
because the way the rules are set up right now, the way they stand right now, the renters have already signed that they are not allowed to do anything but come to and from the fort. So it stands right now. So, all I'm suggesting is if these renters want some other amenities, let them pay for it. But don't force them to pay for it, it'd be voluntary, you know, if you wanna go and use.
Some renters might not want it.
Well, if they don't
I
want it,
know.
don't make them pay for it, that's my
Exactly.
point.
Don, I'm sorry, but the RV park is coming up next. After we wanna try to get through this, and not
Yeah.
keep,
But you understand, all I'm saying is it should be
We're already
voluntary.
doing things.
you know, we can
But-
be here till hell freezes over.
But if you
on
don't-
some of this stuff.
If you don't agree to those requirements, then you don't get them, and that's the way it stands right now. You don't agree to them, you don't get it. I mean, renters are not allowed to do anything but come to and from their, they can't even come to, by the book of the way it's written,
Well, there's
my
country-
renter can't even come to my house and pay the rent legally. He's not allowed to do that because he
The
can.
way it's written, you're right.
That's what I'm saying.
But
Now, if
that
they want something
interpretation,
else, the renter, not me, it has nothing, no skin off my back, but if they want something else, let them pay for it.
Well, that's what I'm
But
saying.
it'd be
This renter's
voluntary,
agreement would be a
not
card.
mandatory.
but that interpretation is different than what Mr. Metcalf just said too. Mr.
It's
Metcalf
not
just
an
said,
interpretation, it's in black and white in your
but Mr.
bylaw.
Metcalf just said that he provides documentation to the fort that apparently we provided to him to fill out, that said the tenants do get that privilege.
Well, then you
They
have,
don't.
then you've
No,
got something wrong with your
The landlord is
paperwork. If
responsible
it's
for
true
it.
what he's
Well,
saying,
yeah, the landlord is responsible for that.
Because that's what it says, that they can use those facilities as long as the landlord's
Don't
responsible.
understand.
See, and so that differs from what you're just talking about now. But I agree with what Ms. Isaacs is saying, that, you know, if we can, I mean, I don't even know that it has to be a different fee. It just, that we can say if you're a long-term tenant, we will waive the initiation fee
Initiation
or
fee.
whatever, and then you,
Buy a card, or permission card to use the facilities for $10 a month, or you're gonna be here for a year, it's $120.
as long as it's voluntary.
Whatever, you
Well, no.
make it up. But the tenant is responsible to have that card, and if they are caught without it, they could be asked to go, you know, either go get it or
I
leave
don't
the
think-
facility.
I don't think they need a card. I think if you got your lists, then that's, accepted, you know.
You can't have a
I
list
don't mean to
everywhere.
throw a monkey wrench in it, but it's something to think about. Is this not effectively creating a new type of membership?
It would be.
And would it not,
We've had 'em in
would
the
it not
past.
also require that you change the declaration?
That's correct.
It probably would be.
Unless-
But how did they do away with them in the past? Because it was just too hard because the landlords didn't know when their renters left.
Unless for a long-term tenant.
That's, how can that be when they didn't pay the money for the rent?
That was the thing, because the renter stopped paying the fees, and the landlord didn't know it at that point in time, exactly.
That's a poor landlord.
Yes, it is.
Well, yeah, but that's not
Well,
our discussion.
I wanna
But what I was gonna suggest
But there are
is-
extra, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well,
I'd
I
like
mean,
to
they
make-
can still do their FRM, but what we can determine is that because they're a long-term renter for X number, like 6 to 8 months and beyond,
How about 5 years? That's how long we've had a renter, for 5 years.
again, we can determine that at a certain point in time, if their lease is a certain amount of time, then we as the board can waive their need to have that administration fee. I'm not saying that we have to do it, but then they would essentially get an FRM and pick up the payments of the FRM. Because I do not agree that we need to go back to a tenant card that we clearly weren't doing in the first place. And I really don't know that we want to make a brand new category of a membership, but we can give them a little bit of an incentive to get the FRM by doing something with the initiation fee. But that is administrative that we can decide
I'm
case
gonna,
by case basis.
I'm gonna make an alternative suggestion. I think you could charge at the time the tenant is registered along with the landlord, you could charge a registration fee of say $25. And with that, leave the phrase in here that says the tenants would be allowed access to the fort amenities. And rather go on, you're gonna try to collect stuff month to month, and who paid this month and who didn't pay that month, or you're gonna put an excessive burden, financial burden onto both the tenant and the landlord if you're gonna make them buy an FRM.
But that's a burden that you assume when you
So
come live here.
When they get the
It
tenant,
doesn't exist now. What you're talking about is changing the rules. You said earlier that, we'd made a business decision. Well, we made that business decision based on the rules. And you're wanting to change the rules. And those rules are gonna cost our renters more money. I understand that because it's, at the end of the day, it's for the bottom line. That's what this is all about.
No, actually,
Yes, it
it's
is.
not
It's
about
for the bottom line. You're gonna add more money to the fort's
What
portfolio.
this is about is making
But you've
it.
changed the rules.
What this is about is making a fair policy
And if we
that
wanna
is
make
in
the
the
decision
best
to continue to
interest
do
of the
this.
fort as a whole. And when you look at the fort as a whole, our fort is not built on, well, let's make properties economical enough so that a member can go buy a bunch of them and create their own business.
We're not
What
wanting
the
to
best
buy
interest
That's the
of,
only
please let me
alternative
finish.
you
If you're
have
gonna
as
raise
a
your voice
fort.
at me, sir, then you need to afford me the opportunity to complete my statement. What this fort is as a whole is a gated community that provides an ability for a person that wants to come into a gated community, have amenities,
We know all
and
about
live
that.
there.
But what, I got
It
a
is not
question for
about
you.
making
You're
your
changing
business
these rules.
a more lucrative business.
Yes, you're changing these rules right now, but you look at your fort. Look at it. Look around you. I challenge you to tell me what percentage of this fort is abandoned. And, they ain't paying their dues, and the utilities are turned off. Do you even know that? Do you have a percentage of the fort that's like that right now? And you want to add to that. Another question I've got for you, do you know what percentage of the fort, you as a board, any of you, know what percentage of the fort is occupied by renters? You don't know those things, but you're wanting to change the rules because you think that's a problem.
But
And you
John-
don't even know.
John, we're changing a lot of rules because they're not
I-
being enforced anyhow. We're changing rules. That's the next order.
Well, that was the next question I was going to ask.
We had a whole committee working.
I understand all this, but the next question I was going to ask, we have rules in place right now. You show on your declaration that a renter can't do anything but come to and from the fort. And they've signed an agreement, and they're supposed to do this every 6 months. It says that, but you don't enforce that. So my question is, when you get done with all these new rules, are you going to enforce any of the new ones or the old ones? You don't enforce nothing. That's your problem, you don't
That would
enforce
be,
your rules.
that would be my hope, that if we're not gonna
Me
enforce
too.
rules, then get rid of them.
Me too, because what you have right now isn't getting enforced. And there's the problem. It's the reason that we're sitting here trying to decide what do we need to do to fix this stuff. And the answer to me, in my mind, is simple. Just enforce the rules that's in place right now. And they're
Okay,
there.
all right,
And the renters
okay.
have signed those. The
All right.
renters have signed those and agreed to it, but you haven't enforced it.
All right, sir.
But how many,
All right, wait a minute, stop.
Okay,
We're
I'm ready to listen.
we're going on down the road, we just keep on and keeping on. We got one rule that says that you can just go from the house to the, Stan's got paperwork that he gives his people, that he turns into the office, that says you get privileges.
But they're, but the.
But you're paying for
But
it.
I'm the one that's responsible for their actions. If they
We are
don't,
too.
Yeah, we always
Sure,
do.
we all
they
get
are
that, we all
too.
got to
The way
turn
it
that
is.
in.
Exactly.
And I'm
There
not
may be a
against.
little bit of
uh,
confusion on the paperwork there, but, I don't see where we would break the rules by saying that if we charge $25, and you can call it whatever you want to, the tax, you can call it a whatever. When the contract is signed, when the owner brings it in, and the renter, you're gonna charge him an extra $25 a year for the privileges of that renter using the facilities.
and a sticker.
And a sticker.
I'm for that, like I said
Keep
earlier.
it simple, folks.
Keep it simple, but make it voluntary, because,
Oh, if they don't
Because-
want it, I agree. It's
yeah,
not
I mean,
something
they've
they
already
have to
signed up
have.
that they don't get
Because-
it. They know they don't get it.
I got a renter that don't play golf and don't go swimming.
Yeah, I mean, me too. And, you
So
know,
if they don't
But
want
that
it, they don't
$25,
want it.
if that's for a full year, and that gives them privileges that they can go down here just like me and play golf for $12 instead of $22, then Fort Clark is losing all the way around.
No,
Well, it just
but
devalued
What you're
our-
saying is that's a member's fee,
but see,
right?
Do
I
what?
think
The
what
golf
you're
course that
missing,
you pay, the fee that you pay at the golf course is because you're a member.
That's because I am a
I
member.
think the thing you
But
guys are
the-
missing-
But the
the-
renter is not a member, so he pays the outside fees.
Sure. Y'all just keep on and keep it on and keep it on.
Can I-
Y'all need to
Clarify, clarify this wording. The wording says they have access to the amenities. It doesn't say they get discounts or
Okay.
special
That's right.
privileges. They
So
have
then we're
access.
saying if they're a tenant.
you know, the statement I was gonna make, and again, is if it wasn't, if you didn't allow renters,
All this
How are you
does is
guys gonna
grant them
manage that?
access to the facilities.
the renters is a good, big part of your fort. Whether you
Well-
guys wanna accept it or not, a good portion of your fort is renter occupied.
What percentage?
Comes with
sir?
the
Do you know?
territory.
Do you
Say
know
what?
that, do you know that percentage? You threw it at us, so do you know that
Well,
percentage?
yes, you should know that. You're sitting on the board. You should know who lives here and where they live and how they live, because there's rules and regulations. I said this earlier, you don't enforce your rules, so you're saying, I don't know.
Okay,
That
but we're
is
just
your
going
problem,
over
not
the
mine.
same thing over and over. We got to come to we
So,
got to
Yeah, we're.
Mr.
stop all this and figure out what we're gonna do.
so
John,
Mr.
would
Lawrence,
you-
how will you be able to enforce that? If there's some magical admin fee added to this, and these people with the rights now to the fort, they don't get discounts, but they have rights to the fort, how is that something you guys can manage?
That's why I'm saying you
Good
have some kind of
question.
a card. If you're gonna issue a special renter's permit for the car, issue a special renter's card to the renter.
Well, let's let Mr.
For a
Lawrence answer
fee.
the question.
Well,
I'm not sure that I can, Ms. Perkins, because as all this conversation is going on, my wheels are turning, trying to figure it out as to how it's going to be enforced. I think it's gonna be an enforcement nightmare.
yeah.
What
But-
is more realistic for you to enforce?
What I'm suggesting here,
Let's see
I
what
think
you're.
right now we have to either do this, and it has to be presented at the next board meeting for approval, but incorporate in here that it's not optional.
That's right.
That upon the registration of the tenant and the landlord, a $25 fee is to be charged, and that the tenant will have access to the fort amenities, period. Simple as
And
that.
strike the other, in the other rec, the rules and regulations.
Because right
strike
now,
those.
you have wording out there that says they only go back and forth the property, then you have wording here, I didn't make this up, this came out of what we had, that says they have access to all the amenities. Another one says they don't have it, and that's our problem
So
in
this-
trying to enforce anything.
Sure.
This goes back
I
to my
think
question.
we have to
though.
keep it simple and enforceable. And if they pay the $25 up front, not optional, everybody pays it, then there's no keeping track of this one paid, that one didn't pay, and trying to enforce it.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Everybody pays the $25, but if they don't wanna use it, that's their business,
That's up
but,
to them.
but then everybody, you don't have to have a card because everybody paid it, every
Yeah.
renter paid it. It's just part of being a renter on this fort. It goes back to what Ms. Perkins said, you have to pay something to be on, have these amenities.
The
So,
more-
So
The
my,
other point that I would make, the more desirable a property is to a renter, the more rent they will pay and be charged, and the more that enhances the property values.
so that's not going anywhere but to the landlord. So that doesn't
No, it
matter to
isn't
us.
either, because
So,
if we don't have our.
Sir, we're not gonna talk
Ma'am,
about.
listen, if
My
we don't
input-
rent our property, it
Sir,
goes vacant.
she's got the floor right this minute.
My
Hold it.
input though is that what we're saying is if we say you only have to pay $25 for a year to have this access, we're telling people with
Not for a year.
FRMs.
But he's already paid. The renter is already paid.
That's incorporated
That's
in the rent,
incorporated.
they're paying $83 a month whether you like it or not.
But how they deal with their rent, that's not our problem.
That's not the rent.
That's
That,
not,
he's paying,
but I'm saying this fee though.
Access fee.
This access fee, admin fee, whatever we're gonna call it, if we're saying that this is good for the term of their 1-year lease or 5-year lease, whatever it is.
4-month lease.
4-month lease, whatever, it means that the value of that access is $25 for a year. So how do we justify that to FRMs who pay
Exactly.
approximately $500
That's,
to have that same
that's a
access?
completely different thing. FRMs don't own property, they don't lease property.
So
they're already
then that
paying
goes further.
$83 a month.
That
And you're
goes
adding
further.
another 25.
Could you talk to security and the office personnel and try to come up with an enforcement?
Well,
What they
first we
think?
have to have a policy. in
Yeah,
place
you wouldn't
before they
need
can look at
enforcement if,
But that fee, what I'm trying to get at is the fee itself, I'm fine with. It's the amount that
The
I'm not
amount,
okay with,
okay.
because that devalues what we're telling our property owners they have to pay per lot, what we're telling our FRMs they have to pay for that access, what we're telling the people in the RV park that choose to get an FRM,
okay,
you
all
know,
right.
it's
we got you.
devaluing
We
that.
understand.
So,
Okay, so it's something that, it's just like everything else on earth, we all have a different opinion about it, so you can state what you think your opinion should be, and he stated what his opinion is, and let's vote on it. That's the only way to solve it.
I would like to know how many actual renters we have.
Me
and
too.
How many
Well, we're not
actual
gonna find
renters
that out
by
today.
unit.
Now, that,
We're not gonna find that out today.
we've gotta get something
We
done.
gotta
This
get
has been
something
going
else.
on for months and months and months, it's
Yeah,
gotta be.
we gotta
solved.
solve this problem first.
Well, if you live in one of these units that have become nothing but renters, you'd wanna know also.
Yeah,
And there ought to be
I-
some
I
type
want
of
nobody's-
regulations, how
nobody's-
many can and how many cannot rent.
No, no, no,
But
no, no,
Debbie,
no, you can't put no regulations on
Can
how
I
many
address
people- how
what you
many
just
who
said?
can rent,
If
who
you live
can't
in one of
rent.
these units,
Yes,
I'm
that's
addressing
right.
Debbie's statement. If you live in one of these units that is predominantly
Renters
renters,
anymore.
okay, just back up a minute and say, if all those renters went away, you would be living in an abandoned community. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
assuming
The
those
renters,
properties-
that's your neighbors, you're right,
I don't
that's
have a
your
problem.
neighbors.
That's not what
Like
I'm
it or
saying.
not.
It doesn't, none of
But
that
if it
is
wasn't for those
irrelevant
renters,
to
that would
what
be
we
vacant
are
property.
trying to do at this moment. It doesn't make any difference how many renters are here or how many we're gonna
My house and
lose.
see how bad it is coming into that unit, and I'll take you around and show you the renters in there.
Okay, but that ain't got nothing to do with what we're trying to pass here.
That goes back to not enforcing the rules.
That goes
Enforcing
in,
the rules, that's
Enforce-
what would clean
And
up.
that's a
Enforcing the
problem.
rules or something else.
but it ain't got nothing to do with what we're trying to do right
We're
here.
trying to set
understand
a
that.
policy. And as far as your scenario with the RV park, Maria, may I point out to you that those RV park people who choose to buy an FRM and pay the $40 a month get $100 a month discount on their RV park rental.
Which we talked about addressing as
All
well.
right, the renter
That's a
paid,
different
you want the
policy.
renter to pay just as much, they're already paying $83 and they don't get any discount. So you're comparing apples with grapes.
Yeah.
No, I'm not
Okay.
comparing anything with anything.
I call for a vote on this.
Would
Yeah.
$45, you
This
guys
is-
who, you people who rent property
I
to
don't
other
rent- I
people,
don't rent property. There's
Okay.
a lot of it, I will be pissed off like the baddest.
No, wait a-
cat on this
what
place
I
if you
wanna-
let somebody for $25.
They're not, they're paying the 85 plus the
Well, I'm
25.
paying, and I'm
Come
gonna
on.
pay more than $25 for my grandkids to swim this summer.
Okay?
What I'm
That's
saying
not
is
apples
that-
to apples, sir.
It's money.
All right, Bill, it's been called for to decide whether we will submit this to the board at the next board meeting where we can again have another battle and
I think we have to.
submit it to them for their approval.
Yes.
Everybody
You
in
need to
favor of
rewrite the whole thing,
submitting?
just
What are
like
you
you got.
submitting?
Well,
We're
but,
submitting
hold on
that
a
we
second.
include in here among all the other changes we've made, we would also include the fact that a $25 registration fee up front shall be charged at the time of registration, and that the renters will be allowed access only to the port amenities.
And in the summertime, are they gonna get free, with their whole family gets to go free at the swimming pool?
Sure.
Sure.
I don't think the
But the
members are even
$85
allowed that.
plus the
Debbie,
25.
Debbie,
Sorry,
members
paid.
aren't even allowed that. Check your rules, the members ain't even allowed that. We have to, we
to
have
pick
guests
for our
come in,
guests.
our family, we have to,
Yeah,
they have to
okay.
be family, and they gotta
Sure.
be real close family, or they're not allowed in.
That's-
Check
I
your
know that.
rules.
It's
I
okay.
know that.
So it's no different.
All
No.
right, all those in
So,
favor of
well,
submitting
well,
it?
hold on a second. I
I
had
don't even know what we're
asked,
submitting for sure.
I had asked Mr. Lawrence a question, and he hasn't even been able to answer it because he keeps
He
getting run
can't
over.
answer it because
I
he
asked
don't
him,
even know what we're gonna suggest yet.
I asked him, what is something that is enforceable from your end?
That's,
He does
that's
not
an
know.
open-ended question.
No, it's
Well,
it's
sure
me
he is.
asking for
Yeah.
him to give me his recommendation of what he thinks can be enforced where he is sitting.
Enforced regarding what?
On what?
Or
Yeah.
regarding
Well,
the-
he's heard all of this discussion, so with all of this stuff that has been thrown out there on the table, again, Mr. Lawrence, what is something you think is enforceable?
Well, you kind of put me on the spot,
Well, of
because
course
one
I'm
of the,
putting you on the
one of the
spot, sir.
reasons that I'm having difficulty answering that question is because I now have to figure out how I can track renters and the members of their family on our software computer system so that we can generate lists that the pool shack can check against. Not only has the renter paid the access fee, but has the landlord paid his assessments, and then cross-reference those. So can it be done? I'm sure it probably can, but we're gonna have to figure the logistics
I
out.
think what we're asking here for right now, what's being proposed is $25 upfront at time of registration for all renters and landlords.
And that's a one-time
And
fee
then it's a one-time fee for that lease.
for that year.
When you register that lease, you pay $25.
Does that even
And
take
that-
care of the extra security, the extra office help, and the extra
No,
stickers?
it's $25.
I'm just asking.
I don't
Okay.
think you can put a number on what that value
I
is,
don't-
honestly.
I
But
don't
do
see
think
why that
figure-
is an extra expense.
I think that figure though, it
When
needs
the
to go
member
up to
already is
I would
paid
like to
more than
finish
25.
for that.
what I was putting to Richard.
Okay, you go ahead.
But we've already
You
paid
pay
the.
$25 upfront, once again, at time of registration for the lease, when the lease is registered at the office. Those tenants then are allowed access to our facilities. If that lease is registered and the $25 paid, what is there to try to track or keep track of or enforce? It's enforced at that point in time when they register the lease. They pay the $25.
And if they wanna use a facility
And it's-
that a member has to pay for at a member's rate, a renter does not get a member's rate. He's not a member.
Hence the
Well,
traffic.
they're allowed-
How are you
We
gonna
just
track
argued
that?
that point.
They're allowed access.
I'd like to see
You
it.
can't, when you go to the golf course and you get a golf rate, you have to have a membership there.
Sure.
They're not getting a membership. They're being allowed access on the basis of being a renter. Because we know that if they're a renter, there was $25 paid up front. We already know that because of the fact they're a renter.
Yeah.
But they don't pay
Nothing to
members'
track.
rates
They're a
anymore.
renter,
You
with
know,
a different
what you're
sticker.
getting at, this one, I keep track of, that could go for all the members, for everybody on this board. You know, I could invite in, 16 friends of mine to come on over and we'll have a little party and go down to the pool and go swimming. How you even keep track of which one, I mean,
Because
they're
they
just
do have
making
a
this
list.
more complicated than it has to be.
They do, when you drive up to the pool, like you have to tell the guard shack, this is my name, and they look and they see, okay, well, you're authorized 4 people, I have 7 people in my cart, and they say, well, you've got 3 additional people, it's, what is it, $6 or something?
That's for 3 months out of the 12-month year.
But what I'm saying is, what he's saying is that his list now has to encompass how many people are authorized on that access.
It's right on the registration form. When they register, it asks you.
I understand that, but what you're not understanding is the process that they use is they have a printed list on a,
What's the difference if you have a printed list with a tenant and how many members they are allowed to bring in and a member? And
Because
how many allowed, they're the
on-
same.
Or a
On his
renter's list
list-
and how many people are allowed. You
But-
could have 2 lists.
but on his list, what he's saying is that he has to know, as a tenant, how many people will they have available to use this facility. But
Yeah.
then, as a tenant, they only get that privilege if the member is in good standing that they're renting from. So if the member is not in good standing, then they can't allow that person
They
access.
can't be, they're not supposed to be a renter if the member's not in good
I
standing. It has to do the
understand
same thing with the member.
But we were
Why,
just
why
sitting
is it
here
that
talking
members that
about
aren't,
how are
question,
we gonna enforce this? We're
question,
making
just a
these
simple
rules,
question,
but how is it enforceable?
It's enforced at the
simple
time of
question. How are
registration.
members that aren't up to date allowed on the fort? How is that happening? And don't tell me it's not. How is that
Well, I
happening?
can't tell you it's not. I'm
You
saying
know it
right
is. That's
now
why you
it
can't
is.
tell me it's not. It
What we're talking
happens
about is enforcing what we're gonna
extensively.
put on
Stan
paper.
has his hand up. Stan?
The $25 or something a year, that sounds fun. And if they want to buy an FRM,
That's fine.
they can do that on their own,
That's right.
Yes.
Right,
and
Yeah, I have
they
a
can
letter
get the
to that.
membership prices then, is that right?
That's right.
that would be
That's
under
right.
that.
Exactly.
But these other people, I've got people that come and had some long-term renters, and they went to the pool nearly every day last year. They paid every day. I said, you can either buy a $165 deal and have to start paying $35 a month, or you can pay whatever the fee is.
Sure.
It was cheaper for them to pay the fee than, which I thought the 165 was pretty rich. Especially for short 60-day renters and stuff, they can't afford that. But this other way, you're gonna collect $25 and they go anywhere, but they're still not gonna be entitled to membership, discount and
That's
stuff.
right, exactly.
So the Fort Winds, you keep it simple, you put it right on the sticker with the renter.
It can't be simple, Stan.
But that's not.
Yeah, it
gonna
can
be-
be, it's gonna be, it's gonna be. You gotta make
It
it,
can be, but it's not gonna be.
well, it needs to be, and it needs to be communication between here and the guard check.
I
Now, the
understand.
question would be, is, the $25 came about because that's what they charged in 1994.
94.
Should that figure be a little bit different? Should it be, for example, the same cost as a FRM? You pay the $45 to use the privileges one time, because the member is already paying it every month.
That's right, we are.
But now the renter is
Okay.
paying to use the facilities at I don't wanna use the word, outsider's rate,
None.
non-member rate.
Non-members.
Okay.
So if they wanna go
$45
play golf, they gotta pay the same rate as the guy who comes from Del Rio wants to play golf. He wants to use the pool, same rate as somebody coming from the outside, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, we got one gentleman that wants $25.
Well, I don't think $25 by today's standards, that's.
Okay,
But
so
that's
what do you
my
wanna make?
concern, I wanted that price.
Well, that's what
higher.
I'm asking
I
people
think
who
it
are
should be the
renters
same
here.
as
Do
the
you think
Actual,
it's
the
unfair?
actual $45
unreasonable?
is only allowing his renter that he can come onto the fort and he can drive down to the golf course, he can drive down to the pool, but if they want to use those services, then they will have to buy their recreation membership. Is that what?
No, I pay for a day.
No,
They
or
pay,
You're
they pay
saying-
the day rate to use the
The
facility.
day rate,
The
okay,
non-member
but if they
rate.
wanted a recreation membership.
They could
then
buy
They can buy one.
And they don't have to pay the $45, they go ahead and buy an FRM.
Yeah.
Right, but if the people
Okay.
don't want that, then the $45 registration fee for whatever they're here, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, that gives them the chance to come into the fort. They can still use the trails, they can go wherever they want to on the fort. Is that what I'm understanding the $45 is?
But they need, we need to keep in mind, we're trying to promote.
He's
the
saying
fort.
25, he's saying 45, you got another
I
figure?
am saying it needs to be a lot more
We
than
already know this.
that.
You're
because
saying what?
I'm saying it needs to be a lot more than that.
What is
And
a
I
lot
think-
more to you?
To me,
Give me a figure.
being fair across the board, it needs to be the same amount as it would be if I'm gonna go procure a new lot. So $150.
Okay, so we got a $25, we got a $45, and we got a $150. Okay, what
Which is
else?
the same as the
Let's
transfer.
keep this simple. What do you say? Debbie?
Oh, you're talking to me?
Yeah.
I'm still putting it off in my head.
Well, it's simple here.
I
We're
agree
trying to
with-
come
I
up
agree
with a
with the
figure
concept. I
that's
agree with
gonna
that
be
concept.
satisfactory for all of us 5, and I'm gonna go with the 45, and you can give me a figure.
You're going with the 45, John?
Well, I'm trying to be,
Does that make sense to you guys?
From
You guys are renters.
1994.
I think it's
to
too
now.
much because we
I'm
need the
trying to
renters
get
driving
somewhere
around
in
the
the
fort
middle to where
to
it
try to promote
satisfies
this fort and
everybody.
sell properties.
Do what?
I don't care what it
And you're
is.
not trying to promote, I don't know how many renters I've had that have been here for a week or 2 or 3 or
Well,
sometimes 2
that
months
needs
that
to be
have bought
addressed as a
places and are
short
paying
term.
every month now.
Stan,
Do what?
those short-term things, that needs to be something, we need to come up with something for the short-timers. Those short-timers could eventually become real members.
I got some people coming in next week for 10 days
I think
that
we're
are planning on
actually
coming back
talking-
maybe for a lifetime, but they're
I
getting,
think we're talking
That's-
long-term
yeah, we're
right
talking-
now.
We're talking on, okay, we're getting off the subject again. How much?
50.
50. Okay, so we got 25, 45, 50, and 150.
You're also talking about inflation rates between 1994
Hey,
to
we understand.
We're not
We-
gonna get into that.
We all get that. We already got the rates. So we got a 25 plus a 45 plus a 50 plus a 150,
270
270
divided by 5 is $54.
divided by 5 is $54. That's the average cost. That's all I'm trying to do, is trying to get something that everybody can say yes to. Come on, people. This
I'm
is
sorry,
something that don't need to drag on for the next 6 days.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hope, I can't say for $55 somebody can have access to amenities that I
Maria?
have.
Well, okay,
Maria,
you don't
please.
have to. You don't have to. You can
John.
vote no.
John, please, Maria.
Okay.
I think we're all quite aware of where everybody stands and what all their reasons are for, so we don't need to hear the same thing
No, no,
over
not
and
over and
over.
over.
It's just a matter of
Can I ask
a
Mr. Lawrence
deciding.
something? Can I ask Mr. Lawrence? Richard, well, how would this work though? If they're renters, will these people actually be put into the membership to be able to get into the pool and stuff, or how would that actually
Well, that's
work?
what I was just talking about. We're
Well, I
gonna
don't know
have to
what
think, we're gonna, no, I mean, earlier, I was saying that we're gonna figure out how do we put this into our system, into our software.
Because they're not gonna be real members at this point, but you're gonna have to have some type of accountability for them.
Yes.
Can I clear that up for you?
Please.
Okay. This would make, as part of the renter's policy, renters separate the two things. One part of it is renters would be eligible for access to and use of our facilities. No discounts, access to and use of our facilities. That's one part of the equation. The other part, separated from that, is that when their lease and their information is registered, there's a fee charge. Has nothing to do with this access. So you don't have any membership or anything else, it's just the fact that renters are allowed that. The other part of the equation is there's a registration fee when they register. And that, as it works out, you have different privileges. They can occupy the house they're renting. They can go back and forth to it. They can get a gate pass. They can drive down to the pool and go swimming. They and their immediate occupants of that building only. So you have two things. And it isn't that they're not paying a registration fee to buy these privileges. Those privileges come along with being a renter and occupying a property that is owned by an owner in good standing, which means he's paying the $83 a month every month.
That's exactly.
So, if I may, so a person needs only to identify themselves as a renter.
Renter.
We will know that they have paid a fee.
Yes.
Exactly.
And therefore, what we would have to have is a book, spreadsheet, or catalog of some sort.
Or that
which lists-
sticker on their
which
window when they comes down to the swimming pool, there it is.
Yeah, but the
But if
kid may
if they're out
come,
on the trails,
yeah,
they're
Yeah.
gonna identify themselves as a renter, and security will simply have to have a list of all renters and all children, spouse.
What do you do about members now?
It's
What if
the same
security
thing.
stops me out there and says, who are you? Are you a member? You say, I'm a member, how do they verify that?
Security at the gate has not only a list of members or access to the list of members, but also they know who is and who is not current.
They should know who it is.
Right, that's the
They
list.
should.
Who is current and
Who is
not
current
and
and who is
assessing.
not.
Well, it could be this, almost the same thing with the renter.
so how does that affect the adult center and the gym and stuff?
They will use it.
Anybody, if they're a renter, they would have access to that as well.
Yeah, it sounds simple to me, because if your renter has his own sticker, and the member has his own sticker, and nobody else is allowed on the fort without stopping at the gate and getting permission or paying for
Amen, brother.
entrance. Done deal. What's
Ain't no
make
problem.
confusing
Well,
about
there's
that?
some
Simple.
vandalism at the adult center is one of my
Yes, I know, but you know, right now, you know that it is either a renter, that you say is a renter, or somebody that's come to the gate unauthorized, which is what you're trying to stop, I think, is unauthorized entry. I think that's what this is all about. People come on this fort that ain't authorized. I go down here and see these big parties at your clubhouse where there's the stickers, the little paper stickers, all over the darn place. You've let them in, well, we can come to the golf course, and then they roam the fort. Garage sales, same thing. They come on for a garage sale, they roam the fort.
All of that is
They're
not what we're talking
authorized
about
by
right now, sir.
the
So
security.
we
Why?
do need to move forward because it's 5
I
minutes to noon.
I
and
think the question is
Whether-
what, I mean, the
Okay.
only thing is the amount of money
Yes.
that is gonna be charged.
And it was $54
$55.
if we took everybody's and divided it by,
And did an
Five.
average.
be 55 and go with it.
Yes,
On a trial basis.
yes.
I'd like to know if the landlords that do the renting is $55 workable for you people.
It shouldn't matter.
As long as, what I'm understanding, this is a one-time or once a year. I'm not really sure.
Is it
I'm
gonna be
hearing that
per
right.
unit or per renter?
Per renter.
No,
but
the
per
lease. the
If
one-
if I have 12
agreement.
renters in a year's
But not on
time,
short term, not on short term.
We need to figure out something else on short.
well, I mean, say you have them once a month, and I got a lot of them that stay a month, then I gotta pay.
But that is by the bylaws,
you
by the
don't have
rules
to
and
pay.
regulations, that's a short-term renter. 30 days or less is short-term according to these
Okay.
rules.
So this wouldn't
So
apply.
you're looking at over 30 days. And honestly, it shouldn't matter if it's amenable to a landlord because, again, it's part of living here.
But it's
The
also,
landlords
it's also
are-
not your fee, it's gonna be the renters who have to pay the fee.
Yeah,
But it doesn't
that-
matter who pays it, it
that
just
affects-
Well, I'm just saying,
pointed.
But somebody's gotta pay it, and it's gonna be, You know, we're
I think
trying to
the renter
promote
ought
the
to
fort.
pay it, and then the renter's name becomes part of,
But who pays it isn't our
That's
problem.
not our,
Like,
that's not our
That's,
problem.
that's
We-
up
we
to,
make the
up to
policy
the
and it
landlord.
just gets
and
paid.
We're off on a different subject, that's,
yeah, it's just,
so here we are,
This will be for long-term renters and when the lease is registered.
So it's
For the
one
length of the
time,
lease.
Annual.
one time only per
It
the
needs
lease?
length of the lease.
for the length of the
Okay.
lease.
If you get a new renter, then that you have to
If you
redo.
redo your lease every year, then you have to redo the 55.
so if I sign a 5-year lease, I only need to pay $55 to get access to the fort for 5 years.
Is that,
This should be an annual.
Do you have more than, do you have 5-year leases with people?
I have open-end leases.
we have Oakland, but we have them that's been there like 5, we have one that's
No, I
been there
understand what
like
you're saying,
5
but when do
years.
you renew the lease?
Every year.
When
Every
they
year.
leave.
So
But-
then
oh,
that
no,
would be
no,
your
no,
time.
no,
We
no,
have
no,
to, right, as it
That
stands
should
right
be
now,
a
if we
yearly
followed your
annual.
procedure,
An
your
annual
current
annual.
procedure,
It would be
I'd have to do it every
annual.
6 months.
Yeah, but
Regardless.
forget that.
But you get that. That's an if,
So
But if you
annually,
do it every year,
which I won't do
every
unless,
year, the $25 or whatever fee it is, if the renter stays, would have to re-up
55.
we can put that in the,
length of the year
in the
for the contract.
body of the lease.
Yes, sir.
And
You're
we'll
gonna
have
do
to
it for
change
the
our lease.
55, why can't it just be tied to the property? Like I've managed 14 properties.
Mhm.
If we're gonna do it that way, why don't we just each property pay $55 for a year?
Because you don't know what name is attached to that property.
Pardon?
You don't know what name is attached to that property. So when they're going through their list, how are they gonna know that that property has changed who's occupying it? They're not gonna know. And so then they're gonna have a nightmare trying to figure out, well, does this person even have that access?
Well, they'll have a card up there.
Exactly, sir, but the information that the guard is given is gonna be what's put into the system that he's talking about. He needs to figure out how to put them in there. So if you attach a fee to only a property, then you don't know who the occupant of that property is, and you don't know who to grant access to.
Well, we do know because they
But
have to
he's-
register.
No, but Mr. Metcalf is suggesting that the fee be attached to the property, not to the tenant. And I'm explaining
That's what
why
he's
it
just
needs
now
to be
saying.
attached to the tenant as opposed to the property.
so I've heard $55 annually
Annually,
I've got a
and
question.
not voluntary, is that correct?
that would be.
Right.
Part of the
Mandatory.
application.
Mandatory.
Application.
Now,
Also.
The fees that we're paying on each property right now, whether there are people there or not, what does that cover?
$85?
Pays
Well,
all your
whatever the
bills.
monthly fee is.
Yes,
According to your declarations and bylaws, the rights of the property owner is who gets the rights of that property. And it's in your rules and regulations.
The $83 a month that you're paying covers a residential assessment that,
For
I
one lot.
believe is around 40 or something. And that's
Right, and
for
we're paying
improved
that,
properties.
right, and we're paying that on rental properties, whether
You're paying
they're
that
occupied or
on all
not.
property.
Right.
The other, rest of the fee,
Sure.
the other $40.
If you own the
is-
property, you're paying it
Can I
regardless.
finish, please? Is a membership fee that provides you your membership and the benefits and privileges that go with the membership. The problem that has been thrown out here is that membership is only for the owner of the property, and it's not assignable. You can't assign it to your renter, it's yours. So if you have 10 properties, you can, I guess, go 10 times as much. In
Sounds
other
like
words-
double dipping to me. You're charging me for something I'm not using if it's empty, and you're getting the money.
Now, you're right. You're correct. But that's the way.
Let's not get too greedy.
Well, that's
You
why
know, you always
we
want
ain't
somebody
too
else to
greedy.
pay what you should be paying.
a
That's not
one-time
fair.
fee, a maximum, a one-time fee for a renter, a maximum of 1 year.
To use the facilities
To use
is
the
not being
facilities.
greedy.
Then if they stay another year, they pay another, $55.
So that's $55 for the year. And
Yeah.
if they're here for a week and they wanna use the swim park, it's what, $6?
Yeah.
$3.
They'd have to go as a
$3.
guest.
$3.
What
Per
is this
person.
gonna create now when, say, I have my property, I wanna leave for the winter, but then I want to rent it out for the summer? and then I decide to come in and I wanna use my property, how does that work if they're paying $45 to have that, or 54 or 55?
It would sound like,
So what happens there? Because now
That's two different leases.
I've rented my property out, but now I wanna come in and I wanna use my amenities.
Well, you're already.
that's
there.
what
Well,
I
you're
think
a
Mr. Herman was
See how you
referring
get it.
to.
Referring to
Rent it
on the
out.
other, just throwing this stuff out there because it
How
will
can
become a
you-
question and a
Okay, if
problem.
it does, we've already covered that
How
because I
can you
have
use
Well, then let's
property
do a
that
vote.
you've rented out?
separated the fee as a registration fee
That's
and the right for access as a tenant privilege.
Yeah.
So it has nothing to
To
do
do
with
with
the
the
owner
actual
coming in and using
No.
their own.
Thanks for clarifying.
I called for a vote a while ago.
Long time ago.
Let's do it again.
But we're now gonna change it
We're
to
gonna change it.
$55, and this is not binding, this is only to present it to the board.
I understand.
Okay, so all will agree to
And
present it to
an
the board.
annual, on an annual basis.
Yeah, annual basis, I'm in favor of presenting it to the board.
It's an annual fee.
Does
We're
the
voting just to
motel
take it
allow
to the
those
meeting.
renters to go in?
We're not saying
Free
we
of
agree
charge?
to all the
To
terms.
take it
Or do
to,
they have to pay?
for,
Motel,
I'll agree to take it to the board.
I don't know, that's a different subject right there. We just-
but
okay.
they're renters.
I'll agree to take it to the
do
board.
what?
That's a different subject. Wait.
I think it's,
okay.
I think everybody agreed to take it to the board.
Okay, all right, we got that done. Now your question,
Are the motel guests treated the same way as the renter guests? In other words, if they wanna use the pool and they're here, they have to pay a fee when
they
they go
have
into
to
the
pay a
pool?
fee, don't they?
Did you write down what that paragraph is?
No, they have access to
Mr.
some of the
Sullivan,
amenities.
Can I see,
Just some of the,
can I see your notes so I can write down what?
See, they don't
No,
get
no, no,
but not,
no.
and if they wanna play golf, they gotta pay.
Can I
golf,
see
they
your
gotta
notes so I
pay
can
for
write
it.
your paragraph down, Mr. Sullivan?
You see what?
Your notes, so I can write that
A renter-
paragraph down?
I don't have it written.
Based on
Oh,
what we're talking
what-
about
what
here,
is it?
a renter
$55.
is paying $55 to have access to the amenities that a member has, same amenities. But some of the amenities you get a discount on.
No, you don't
If
get
Some of the
members.
amenities you don't pay for.
No, we don't get discounts, that's what we're talking about.
You're
Now,
not
he's
listening to
talking
what
about
I'm
The
the
saying.
renter
motel.
don't get.
So a renter would be,
You-
pay for the use of the amenities or the facilities the same as if a guy driving down the street pulled in and said, hey, I wanna go play golf. That's the rate a member would pay. When you pay as a member, you pay a little bit less fee
Well,
to
the
use the facility.
The reason I brought it up primarily is looking at it from a purely business viewpoint, if this place, I understand, is not real lucrative in the summer. You've got a lot of rooms available. I would think you'd want to offer them some free golf or some free swimming, just to bring some bodies in here.
That's, yeah, that's another thing where you could have a weekend, what do they call those things?
Clinic.
Special.
That's a topic
Weekend
beyond the
special.
Yeah,
scope
that's
of
not
this.
Yeah, but that's different from this, that, you know.
But I mean, people spend money, but if you haven't got people, obviously you're not gonna get any money for the golf course, for the pool, any of these things.
The motel gets to use the par 3, they get to use of the swimming pool. If they wanna play golf, I think they get there's a discount they get to go play golf. Same thing with RVers, they're paying Fort Clark to stay at the RV park. They get a discount at the golf if they wanna play golf, but they also get to use the swim park because now Fort Clark is getting that money to help with the things that we need to pay around here, so it's not all on the membership. So, because Fort Clark gets that money, they do get a few things and then discounts for that purpose.
Well, Fort Clark gets the money from my empty condo too, and
I,
there's nothing
They
happening
get
there.
them from an empty lot too.
All right, let's move on to the RV park.
I actually need to go, 'cause it's noon, I gotta keep it.
I think the
Why don't we still
RV
have
park
a-
was pretty much settled.
well, I've got 2 complaints and I don't know what needs to be done about them, but that Saturday morning dinner, breakfast bell going off at 7 o'clock every 15, 20 minutes I've been hit twice this week or last week because people come here to get away from their real jobs and are being woken up on Saturday mornings at 7 o'clock, whether they want to or
Okay,
not.
but I don't think we can deal with that. It used to be 6 o'clock is what she complained about. They changed it to 7. That's Sherry from,
Sherry is one of them, and then a member that lives in 38 also complained about it
How about the pipeliners going to work with their diesel trucks at 5 o'clock?
I understand that also.
Well, one of the things we have, if we go over the changes we've already made in the RV park, and, Maria, there's gonna be nothing binding decided here, so you don't have to be concerned if you do need to wait.
Oh, no, I do need to go, but yeah, that's fine.
Okay. In the RV park, I think we pretty much agreed on everything. But one of the things was no unnecessary idling of vehicles.
Well, talk to him, he was gonna try to work it in this week.
The other thing is
That's what it
checkout
was.
time was changed from 11 PM to 11 AM.
Yes.
And,
Number 14, they made some changes. No joyriding.
right, no joyriding of ATVs, motorbikes, and et cetera. Then we added, or I added 21.
Yes.
I think that would make it work.
She was. She's been good there.
And that is, and this we may have to involve Rick.
Now, my question
Regular
was, we don't
applicable
have
rental
storage
rates shall
on-
apply to all occupied sites regardless if occupant is in residence or not. And I was told
Well, they
that
just offered one too, because we got-
Kurt informed the people out there this year that were leaving for the summer, that either they had to pay the full regular rate for the site or move their vehicles off of the site.
Or moved it into storage, I think.
Yes. and
Do
that's
we
the
have
way it-
storage?
That's the way it should be, that's, in my opinion, that's the way it always used to be.
I think that's,
So adding this phrase on there would require that, because some of them are paying, I guess, the full, like, regular rate,
The
like
regular
that.
rate, is what I understood.
But we
So
do have
whatever
storage.
applies to them, if they're a FRM member, they get the reduced rate, but they have to pay it even though they're gonna be gone from the fort.
as if they were there.
Yes. Do we have storage?
Yes, we have a
Okay.
storage lot.
Because that was, I was asked that this morning.
Yeah, it's fenced in, secured, and I think it's $25 a month.
But how
Correct.
much space is really
Okay.
in there? How
We
many?
also, so what I added on as number 21, I'll read it again. Regular applicable rental rates shall apply to all occupied sites regardless if occupant is in residence or not. Because what they've been doing, they pull out for the summer and say, well, we're not really staying there, and they're paying $40 or some dollars a month. On the back, under number 24, it says we reserve the right to refuse service to anyone, and I added on for any reason.
Mm-hmm. I see that.
Right.
Then,
Pet rules,
pet rules, we eliminated, because this was advised by the attorneys, the part that says, no pit bulls, Dobermans, Rottweilers, and chows, and/or wild hybrids are allowed. That whole part, that number
Number 6.
6 was eliminated. Then,
and number 4, you added, corrected the last word, instead of
Yeah.
chain,
Ing.
chaining,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
and also the pet rules, it must be I thought we added that it must be registered at the office,
I thought we did too.
okay.
as part of one.
We need
Oh,
to
yeah, I
know
have
the
it,
dogs.
I had it down here as number 8.
Oh, okay,
All right.
Must be registered at office. Actually, because we eliminated number 6, it would be number 7, and number 7 would be number 6.
Yes.
Ta-da!
Where's the P? Alright, so,
Okay, and we added in the failure to follow rules, number 1, a written warning.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, an enforcement assessment.
Yes,
Number 3, removal from the park.
yes. We got them 3 in there.
And then in the bottom, the last sentence, this is a condensed summary of our FCSA rules and regulations if you wish to review, et cetera, et cetera.
That's right.
okay.
And then, on the acknowledgement of receipt of the rules, we put in there the pet information. I guess basically how many or what, just to make sure that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the,
Check in, check
Check in and check out.
Right.
Yep.
All right, so
I think that's pretty much,
is that agreeable to submit to the board at the next meeting for approval?
Yes.
Yes.
So Maria can be informed if she asks that there were no
But
changes.
I do have a question. When are we looking at TV and internet back down there, or are we?
We're losing a lot of people at the RV park.
Then that becomes a part of the 10-year plan that has to be prioritized by the board. You were talking about several $1,000s.
I understand,
well, couldn't we just
but we're losing a lot of
figure it out
people.
and then just raise the rate?
We need to raise the rate. We should have raised the rate when we were charged that 18.5% electric bills.
We should,
We should have done something then, personally, I think.
I think once we get these rules and regulations in place, then we have to look at the whole rate structure there and electricity being furnished free and all that. And actually, the RV park is basically full. And
Well, I know it's basically full, but it's full
Right
with,
now,
not,
I've talked
winter
to
Texans, it's full
workers.
workers.
a
And
lot
they're not
of-
gonna be here 2
and
years,
some
then
of
they're
the
gonna be
winter
gone.
Texans that have left and have said they aren't coming back, and I heard a lot of reasons blaming it all on the park and this and that, and then when you go and talk to them, actually you find all of a sudden, wow, one guy, his sister's no longer here and his girlfriend lives up in
Well, I understand that,
wherever.
I understand that.
Another
But,
one is, oh, they're sick and they're old and they can't make, get put
But
RV in.
bottom line is that RV park needs a facelift just like the motel does. We can't do them both at the same time.
That's right.
We gotta get through the motel first, and then we need to do a facelift on the RV park. We
Right.
need to check the electricity. The electricity is in bad shape down there.
Yeah, I think at the point that maybe we put in electric meters in a number of sites that charge for electricity, then we can look at furnishing TV and different deal on internet.
And if you go up on all the sites, a certain amount, that might cover this TV and the.
That's what I'm saying,
internet.
just raise the rate to include the TV and, Wi-Fi and all that stuff rate.
Yeah,
Do we know how much it's gonna cost to put the individual meters in on electricity?
Oh,
No.
Have we gotten?
I have no idea what it's gonna cost.
no,
I don't know
here's,
for sure
here's the
what.
problem, it's gonna be, I think probably, I'm not sure of this, but probably, when we had somebody go out there and change those 30 amp sites and 50 amp sites, all
Year
they did
before last.
was change the plug-in and the breaker, they didn't change the wire.
Exactly right.
And that wire has to be, especially depending on the distance to go, a very
Bigger
big, heavy
wire.
wire.
Exactly.
Which is going to maybe a number 6 or number 8 even.
That's right.
And in order to do that, you're gonna have to trench,
Rewire the
change
whole
all
bar.
the
Rewire.
wire,
That's right, exactly.
and that's gonna be expensive.
The other thing is, I think if you're gonna put in individual meters, it's gonna be a nightmare, because who's gonna, if the member or the person renting the space has to pay for their own electricity, then they're gonna have to sign up with the electric company.
Who said that we was gonna put in different
No.
meters?
I'm just saying, if you're gonna have meters in there that the.
Yeah, no, but the meters are.
I don't think you
for us.
should have,
We
you
reckon-
just charge them so much a night for electricity. You don't have a meter for every spot.
No, well,
Well, I kinda think the full-timers ought to have to put their own in there,
Well,
personally, if they're gonna live there full-time.
the
But that's a
meters-
different site.
Yeah,
You need to
This way
separate them.
It's done, I think, believe in every RV park in the country. The meters are there, they're the property of and for the use of the RV park. They charge whatever they want per kilowatt hour used, and they take a reading every month, the first of the month, and then they take from the other one how much it used this last month and give that occupant a bill.
Yeah.
Here's your electric bill for the month. Here's what the readings. You know, in many cases, the RV park charges more per kilowatt hour than the electric company does. They make a profit on it.
Sure.
So,
I don't know if we wanna make a
Yeah.
profit, but we need
You
to make
can't
a
do
break even.
anything until you get the motels finished, cause you can't spend no other money, we ain't got it.
Well, the question too is, you know, in terms of utilities, the fort pays once a month electric bill for everything at the RV park, which includes every spot, right? They pay, I'm guessing this, I'm not sure about this one, but they pay a water bill based on the RV park, not on individual spots, right?
Right.
Okay, so if the electric bill, and then of course they pay the rental of the spot and whatever other fees that they have to pay. So if you increase that fee to generate, the spot fees to generate the cost of running the whole RV park, why do you need individual meters, is what I.
Well, because everybody uses a different
Different-
amount of
A different amount of
electricity.
electricity.
I might heat with propane, you might heat with electric.
Right, I understand that, but over a whole year, you would know what the cost of operating that spot is.
Well, I've gone
And
down
I'm
out there.
telling y'all that you got to separate the permanent people from the people that's in there and
I agree
out.
100%.
Well, that's,
On a
I can
monthly
see if
basis.
you're gonna have
You
permanent people.
designate one of them whole rows, and them are all permanent people over there, and you can do whatever you want on them.
Right, that's what I'm saying, you know, if you do that,
You gotta have a little bit of planning on where you're gonna put everybody, and right now, it's just shotgun blast, you go park here, you go park there.
but if you're gonna redo the electric,
If we're
have
gonna
to do
redo it, we gotta
then
do
you
it
make
right.
spots for future.
Exactly.
No,
Have we adjourned?
I think we
We
can.
have not, we have not, so don't even worry about getting up and leaving.
Workshop.
To be